Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to session A, the 1240 session, Adaptations in Art Museum, Education at the Ringling during COVID-19 by presenters Brooke, Wessel, Xiaonon, Jiang, and Zida, Wang. This is a 45-minute session and it is being recorded. With that said, I will hand it over to our presenters.
Great, thank you so much. So good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're at. Today we're going to discuss adaptations in art museum education at the Ringling during COVID-19. My name is Brooke Wessel, and I am a second-year PhD student in the Museum Education and Visitor-Centered Exhibition program at Florida State University. My research interest is in virtual museum experiences that happen outside of the physical museum.
Good afternoon, I'm Xiaonon Jiang. I'm an international student at FSU. Same as Brooke, I'm also a second-year PhD student in the EC program. My research interest is visitor-centered exhibition and museum education.
Hi everyone, my name is Zida Wang. I'm also a PhD student from FSU EC program. I'm from China. It is my great honor to do this presentation with Brooke and Nancy to you. Okay,
Great.
let's start.
Next slide. So this semester we are, can you switch to the next slide? There it goes, thanks. This year we're all three interning at the Ringling Museum in their education department. I work in school programming and Zida and Xiaonon work in family programming. This is a photo of the Ringling Museum of Art in Sarasota, Florida. It's part of the larger Ringling campus that includes the estate of John and Mabel Ringling, who you might know from the Ringling Brothers Circus. Next slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So the next slide is going to be the Ringling house that's, that John and Mabel actually lived in right there on the left. Perfect. And on the right, you can see a map of the campus. So we work at the Museum of Art, as I mentioned, but the grounds also include the Historic House, a circus museum, the Tibbles Learning Center, the Visitor Pavilion, Education Center, and then the Museum of Art that I highlighted. It's also set on a level 2 arboretum, which we're currently working to become a level 3. So that's exciting to come to in the future. The Ringling is back open to the public now following CDC and museum guidelines of social distancing and required face masks at all times whenever you're on the campus, but we're not currently offering any on-site programming. So we all work in the Museum of Art, as I mentioned, but wanted to give you a little bit of context of the museum and the grounds before we got started. So next slide. This is Gallery 2 in the museum. We also call it the Rubens Gallery. This is where almost all of our tours and family programming traditionally started before the pandemic. All three of us, as I mentioned, started working at the museum in August when everything had already gone virtual. So because of this, we've only had virtual experiences with programming at the museum. We'll briefly discuss what our departments offered pre-pandemic and then go through how we've adapted that programming and created new programming to fit the new standards for the museum. So I'm going to start with talking about my department, the school programs. Next slide. So the first aspect of school programming is obviously school tours, everybody's favorite. Before the pandemic, the Ringling offered school tours almost every day of the week to local Florida schools. We conducted these on site and in the galleries. Next slide, please. This image is Katie Nickel, who runs our school programs at the Ringling with a group of students. At the Ringling, we use visual thinking strategies or VTS in our tours. We do this because we really try and engage every student to get them to ask questions, look deeper, and physically get involved with the tours. Next slide, please. You can see here, Katie is engaged in a painting with some students that are on a tour. We do things like this to get the students interested in the work before we talk about the work, and it really gets them looking deeper and opening up to learning about the artist and the painting. So when the pandemic hit, we were really at a loss to figure out what we could do with school tours since so much of what we do is engaged in the gallery. So we decided to do live tours on Zoom or Teams, still utilizing VTS. Next slide, please. So Katie, who runs our school tours, created virtual lessons that go along and correlate with all of the on-site programming tour programs that we offered before. Teachers can go online and request the platform that they would like to use, specifying if they'll be on one feed in the classroom with all their students, if all of their students will be at home on individual feeds, or if there's a hybrid, which a lot of schools are doing right now. So here are two examples of the programs that we offer. So the first one is Meet the Ringling, the virtual tour. This is kind of like our greatest hits tour, and it's pretty popular just whenever people want a general overview of what the Museum of Art has to offer. The second one is called I Am an Artist virtual tour, and this is one where we will do art making at the end of the tour after we go look through some art in the galleries. So I'll now go over what an average virtual tour looks like for us right now. Next slide. So for this tour, we worked with a preschool class to explore the book, The Dot, which is pictured here on the right. The school that we worked for with this tour was actually from Missouri. And this is one of the benefits of switching to virtual tours. We're able to work with schools from all over, not just schools that are in local Florida. So in my time at the Ringling since August, I've worked with schools in North Carolina, California, Missouri, Indiana, and Florida. So I've worked with so many more students than I would have had the opportunity to work with just on site. For our virtual gallery tours, we split them up into 3 segments. So the first, we read the book with the students in the gallery. And then after that, we would go around the galleries to a couple different rooms and look at art that was relevant to this content. And then we would come back here to the studio that you can see on the left and make an art making activity all together. For tours like this, we usually have 2 people in the gallery, 1 person filming, 1 person talking to the students, and then I'll be in the studio making art at the end, but also switching the cameras and working on my computer for the Zoom. Next slide, please. So these are images from our gallery reading with the Dot. This isn't from the actual tour. This was from when we did a tech test, which we always do in the gallery before we go with the students, just to troubleshoot any Wi-Fi or audio issues. For tours like this, Katie will read the book with her audio linked up to a Zoom feed, but with the camera off. And then Kay will video Katie reading the book with her audio off, so that students can easily hear Katie and see her and see the art that is around her. So she read The Dot in front of this large Kusama painting that you can see on the left. And then we talked about this piece, how it related to the book and the characters in the book. And then we moved on to the next gallery. Next slide, please. This is the second piece that we looked at with the preschoolers. This Mitchell painting was a great way to show that not all of the art has to be the same scale, has to be the same colors and texture, things like that. And we related it back to the Dot book. And we asked the students questions and really used VTS to do some deeper looking. Next slide, please. So after reading the book and discussing the art with the students, I bring the students back into the studio to Zoom with me and make art in the office. So here you can see the setup I have there for the art making activity. We'll review a little bit about what we learned in the gallery and then go into making our own work of art. For this individual tour, the teacher asked us if we could work with the emotional literacy of her students. So we talked about colors and how those relate to our mood, the gestures, and a little bit more before we got started on our art. You can see here, I have on the picture on the left, my document camera. I get a lot of questions about this because people seem to really like the model that we use. It's a great camera. So the one that I use for my tours are the V4K ultra high def USB document camera. It plugs right into my computer and it defaults as my Zoom camera. So I can toggle back and forth from talking like this and then toggle to showing the students what I'm doing with my hands really easily. And I find that it keeps them so engaged to be giving instructions face to face and then switch and show them what I'm doing with my hands. So that really recreates that like authentic experience for them. We like to end the tours always, if we can, with the art making activity like this, just because the students really stay engaged that way. And it's kind of like a little treat at the end of the tour for them. Next slide, please. It's a little hard to see here, but these are the artworks from the Missouri preschool students that our teacher sent us a picture of that they had displayed in the hall afterwards. So it's always fun to see those come through after our tours. Next slide, please. Another type of tour that we do is a live collections tour. This is something that we weren't able to do on our traditional on-site tour, so it was kind of a silver lining of the pandemic and having to go virtual. With the collections tours, we're able to use PowerPoint to share on Zoom to explore works that aren't on view in the museum for various reasons. Maybe we just don't have room for them, or it's just not safe for those artworks to be out in the open air all the time, things like that. So PowerPoint allows us to zoom in so closely and look at the details of the art. And sometimes we're able to get closer than we even would in the gallery, because if you've worked in museums before, you know we don't always want students getting really close and being able to be close enough to like touch the artwork. So it ends up being a silver lining. For this tour, you can see I've got a portrait at the bottom. We focused on portraits. This was a homeschool Third Thursday program where homeschool groups from all over can attend a virtual tour. So we looked at things in the galleries on the PowerPoint Zoom doing the collections tours. We looked at facial expressions, focal points, their clothing, the setting of the portrait, objects, and gesture. And we really focused on BTS for these types of tours and got the students asking questions, answering each other's questions, and just really exploring these artworks themselves. And at the end, we were able to create our own portraits here. And it's always fun to see what they send back to us as well. Next slide, please. These are two of the ones that they sent back. Some of our little artists that attended the program that day and sent us their portraits in. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit hard to read, but don't worry, I'm just showing you what it looks like. You don't need to be able to read all of this. These are what we're working on for going forward. These are our pre-recorded modules. So at this point, we pretty much have our live tours down. We're able to be in the gallery, moving around, reading, bouncing back and forth from room to room on Zoom, and it's going really well. So we want to have an option for people that want school programming, but they can't have like a steady internet access, or they have too many students at home that it's just kind of hard to wrangle everybody together. So with these pre-recorded modules, they can be downloaded and completed at your own pace anytime. Each module has a theme, just like the tours. This one is for Meet the Ringling, so our greatest hits, like I mentioned earlier. In these modules, the educators will receive a lesson plan for their grade level. We split ours up from K to 4, 5 to 8, and then 9+. The lesson plans include gallery videos, activities, individual lessons, and links to artworks through the Ringling collection for further relevant resources. These modules are something that we're developing for our content for right now, but we're also thrilled to be able to offer these for all of the schools that are attending that aren't local, that they can continue to use these after we've returned to on-site programming. Next slide, please. So some of our challenges through this have been technical issues. Our Wi-Fi in the gallery is still relatively new. It's only a few years old. So we combat this by planning what works we're going to feature in every tour, and then going and doing tech tests to ensure everything's working properly. And if it's a little spotty at one place in the gallery, we just don't use it, and we decide there's another work in the museum. The museum is very big. There's always going to be another work that we can highlight that'll be good for our students' connection. Additionally, with live tours, we have 2 or 3 people running them, like I mentioned, with filming and talking and bouncing back and forth from room to room. So we have a couple scheduling issues just with trying to find 3 people that are all available at one time to do a tour. For me, this is somewhat of a bonus because I always think more voices and more minds are better. So it's a scheduling hurdle, but if we can get more voices in our tours, that's always a plus. The next challenge has been accessibility. We just wanted to make sure that these tours were available and accessible to all schools and students, whether they're at home in the classroom. So we made sure to offer these on every virtual platform that some schools might use, like the 2 that come to mind are Zoom and Teams, but we offer them on a couple other ones just based on whatever the teachers and students need. And then also the in-class versus at-home students. It's one reason that we're doing these virtual pre-recorded modules, so that if they don't have the access that they need, they can download these and do them anytime and still get that art education. So that's what we're working on right now with school programs, and I will turn it over to my co-presenters to talk all about family programming.
Hi, welcome to the family programs. The family programs at the Ringling are conducted by the Department of Education, where I'm doing my internship for this semester. Before the pandemic, most family programs are offered online, which include Ringling Read Along and Family Saturday. Next slide, please. Ringling Read Along is our storytelling programs, which used to be twice a week in person. As we can see from the slide, children used to gather around our docent and educators, listening to them reading stories. Our mascot, Ruben the Lion, would also join in and interact with the kids. Family Saturday is the family art making programs. Before the COVID-19, family groups will come to the Ringling every Saturday, making artworks with our educators. We had an average attendance of 300 people every Saturday in summer. Next slide, please. Since the pandemic, we made some adaptations and offered the program online. We have moved most of our communications on the Facebook. We had a Facebook group called Family Program at the Ringling. Since the pandemic, we have over 200 new members join in. Besides social media, we also have provided the schedule, so visitors can also access the programs from the section called Learn from Home on the Ringling website, where there are over 30 activity sheets for at-home art making. They are all related to objects from the Ringling collections. We also offer program schedules for family to check and select. Next slide. First, I'll introduce our live roll programs. That is short for Ringling Order of Art Readers, offered online. Since the summer 2020, we started doing live roll twice a week on Facebook Live, connecting art with early literacy. We have posted over 25 YouTube videos. After we read the books, we'll offer at-home art making instructions. All the projects are related to the content of the books and the Ringling collections. This slide shows the books we are doing this month. On Facebook, we also received pictures of kids participating in the ROAR program. Here is a little girl who enjoyed the story, The Tea Party in the Woods, and had her own tea party at home. Next slide. Next is our FAM program, which stands for Family Art Making. We made FAM YouTube videos once a week, which guide families through making art together. All the FAM projects are related to the Ringling collections and special occasions. This slide shows our educator, Kelly, talking about the Ringling circus collections and how to make circus poster using collage. She encouraged our audiences to make their own posters or magazines with collage and submit their work to our community gallery exhibition. As Halloween is approaching, we designed some still life for Halloween decorations. We will discuss the meaning of still life painting in Ringling collections and show our audiences how to use household items to make their own still life decorations for Halloween. As we implement these programs, we feel that the virtual programs allow us to talk more about the museum collections than in-person programming did. We can have more in-depth discussion of the art, but it's a pity that the visitors can't see the art in person now. Next slide. To evaluate our program, we conducted a quadric survey aiming to collect participants' opinions. We also held a community gallery exhibition named Art at Home to showcase the artworks made by families during our virtual programming throughout the pandemic. We offered free passes to the museums and art kit for families to pick up when they drop off their artworks for the community exhibition. This exhibition also gave us some idea about how families participate in our programs. Now my colleague Zida will talk about the challenges we have and what family programs we plan to offer in the future. Thank you.
Zida, I think yours is still muted.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Brooke. Well, speaking of the challenges for the family programs, the challenges that the Ringling family programs are basically very similar with the school programs. The first one is the technical and accessibility issues. Well, unlike school tours, those schools may have the public schools, internet, and the PC and other equipment resources. However, for the family programs online, we are all due on Zoom. So families must have the internet and Zoom access first at their home. It might be a challenge for several families. Second, many families still prefer to participate in our in-person programs, which I have to admit that our in-person programs are very attractive. I've heard from a friend who told me that I will pay for $20 for a in-person family programs as a reunion for the whole family to stay with my children, not to pay $10 for a online Zoom online class with my child. I think there are some families holding this kind of similar opinions and ideas. The third is the different families visit museums and joining the programs for different purposes. Most families still want to learn something from our family programs, like how to make small artworks for children, and also or maybe do their own art activities. They are learning focus. They have been to our in-person educational program before. However, for those online programs, they just want to stay there. So it is very, very hard for those families to see the real works in person. So that's the reason why they don't want to attend our Zoom meeting online. Also, so for
Yours went back on mute again. Sorry.
oh,
There you go.
Sorry, this is my first time to be a host. Sorry. Okay, so what's next? The first is the Ringling has an upcoming team program. Currently, me and the educator you already see before in the former slides, Kaylee, we're working on a team program research proposal because we at the Ringling we have school, adult family programs, but it seems that we need to pay more attention to the teenagers, see their needs, and consider that what the Ringling could offer to meet their needs. And at the same time, I did some research on several other museums and see what their team programs offer, like the Barnes Foundation, the Broad Museum, the Phillips Collection, the Free Collection, and the Hirschhorn Museum. I chose these museums because they are all the museums named by their founder's family name. So it's kind of like similar like the Ringling. Throughout my research, I would like to offer STEAM arts to Sarasota and Florida teenagers to inspire them to combine the science and the technology and the art together. Also at the same time, during this time, I think social justice and social inclusion would be our keywords as well. And last, we also have a Art Comes Alive program already in progress. This is our website. It is a family audio experiences. Our target audiences is the young children to inspire them bringing art to life and help them take a close look at the artworks. And later we will do live stream from the gallery. Currently, we only have some audio recorded and we put them online. Oh, what? Okay, so if you want to know more about us or from us, this is our website, theringling.org. And also, if you are going to visit a museum on site in person, please remember to put your masks on. And this is our official Instagram page. And this is our official Facebook page. This exhibition is a Canadian Chinese artist work. His name is Hao Sui. It's a very amazing work. I will strongly suggest you come to see the person. And do you have any questions? And these are email addresses. If you want to know more from us, please directly email us, okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. So Zida, if you want to stop sharing your screen, it'll go back to more of a gallery view. And if anyone has any comments or questions or advice for us, we're all very new and trying to figure out virtual learning, just like everybody else during the pandemic.
Thank you.
So you're welcome to add in the chat. If you have any questions, we have about 10 minutes left. Or please unmute yourself and ask us questions if you have any.
This was great. Thank you so much for sharing about your programs. I got lots of ideas and lots of notes. I wanted to know how you reach out to the schools. Like how did the school in Missouri hear about you? Is there a threshold for getting too popular? You know, how far can you go with your resources?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your question. I think that there is a threshold for becoming too popular, but I don't think we're anywhere near it. So we've got plenty of space to grow. I think that the school from Missouri heard about us from a teacher friend that she has in Florida, and they said they're doing these live tours and you should try one out. So she did one with us. A lot of our teachers are hearing about us from our website. I think our web team and marketing team are doing a great job of showing teachers that we would love to create tours that fit the standards that they need fulfilled, because it's just a team effort right now. Everyone's just trying to work together with the teachers and get them through this. So our marketing team has been great with that. They're also offering, the tours don't cost money for the school since we don't have to worry about buses and getting children here. So I think that's been a selling point as well, that they can sign up for this and then it's not a financial burden on the school as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for your question. I just saw someone, Jenna asked if we are charging for these programs. My school programs are not, there's no charge at all. And our regular school tours, I believe most of them didn't have a charge at all as well.
And as for our family programs, we don't charge at all. And also we provide the family art making kit for families to pick up.
Mm-hmm. And I know whenever you have weekend, traditionally when we were on site, our programs, they would provide free admissions for families that were coming to the museum, because the museum is, they have free Mondays, but every other day there's an admission fee. So if you're coming to family programming, you also get into the museum free of charge.
So thank you for the wonderful presentation. So I'm quite excited about hearing your presentation, because I graduated from Florida State University.
Oh, wonderful.
I work with Tom Anderson, Sally Rory, and so it's wonderful to see you. Ringling Museum is a great museum, so it's a lot of great things actually. Great collection and a great place study and learn. And so I have a couple of the quick questions about the one is have you considered international tour is globally, because it's going to be because what you have done right now looks like easily you can convert to some international audience, Mexico or China or Middle East, that can be easily. And the second question is about a membership. So if you have a family program, how are you going to help them coming back again? So do you have any is this kind of pandemic era, how you actually have any strategy or using the mailing service or anything? The target audience, keeping them coming back is a really important part of that.
Absolutely. And that's a big challenge too. I can answer from school programming, and then if you all have anything to add for family programming, please do. For tours, we have not done any international tours yet, but that's just because no schools have shown interest. The second a school from somewhere else is showing interest, we'll be happy to schedule with them. And I think that the museum, you said you mentioned that you know the Ringling, so you know there's so many different collections from all over the world, and I think that we could really cater a tour to specifically what a school needs from anywhere. So I think that would be great. For membership, that's something we're actually doing research on right now as part of, we all mentioned we're PhD students and we're in a visitor studies class this semester. And so we're doing visitor studies on people that are participating in these virtual programs and seeing what they want to see in the future. How do we get them to keep coming back? And then also, how do we get them to come back once we go to back to on-site programming? So that's something we're definitely trying to deal with right now, because it is important to get people coming back and signing up for memberships. Anything from family programming?
Actually, our family programs try to keep a close relationship with our community, and we do right now. We are doing the programs online, but we open our Facebook group, and also talked with our visitors. Also, we conducted survey almost every year and get their opinions. And right now we are doing the community gallery exhibition, and we are trying to show the artwork not only from Ringling collections, but also from our community. So we think this is a good opportunity to get connected with them. And also we are doing in this coming in the next month is trying to provide and divide some art making kit that for families to make art. For example, we will provide the aprons with our logo, Ringling logo on it for kids to wear and use, and also with some construction papers, some watercolor pencils. So anything that can support families to make art at home, we'll think about that and also get opinions from family members. And when they pick up them, we'll also ask them to fill out a survey and let us know their opinion about how we can improve our family programs.
Thank you for your question, and I'm thrilled to hear that you're from Florida State as well. I never got to work with Tom Anderson, but I've heard nothing but wonderful things, so that was exciting to hear. I'm seeing a question in the chat from Kaylee, I believe. I hope I'm saying that right. We do work in virtual programmings with other groups. So in our education department, we have school programs and family programs like we mentioned, but we also, as Zida mentioned, we're working on starting teen programs, but we do have adult programming. And those really focus on our membership base. We have a lot, obviously most of our members are older adults, and so that's a separate department. I don't work on programs with those, but last weekend I attended just for fun because it sounded like a cool tour. We do Sunday morning virtual like relaxation tours for our members and visitors that have dementia. And the theme last week was like haunted in the gallery. So we looked at like spooky paintings and whatnot. And they do lots of virtual programming for that. I think that department adult programming was like the first one to go virtual whenever the pandemic hit, while schools were still in session here. So they've got it down to a science by now. So we're taking notes from them because they've worked out all the kinks over in adult programming. But we're always trying to do more. So if anyone has any ideas, we'd love to hear them. You're welcome. I see you're in the chat. I think one question that we've gotten a couple times is what the difference is between our family tours and our school tours. For homeschool groups, they're just not sure where they would fall in. And we definitely always tell them to go with the school tours, because the school tours, we base everything we do off of Florida State standards. And the family tours, they're a little bit more free looking and like activity based and things like that. That was a question I got before that thought I'd throw in.
So can I just ask one more question? Because the pandemic makes everything shuffled and changed. So based on before pandemic and after pandemic, you have a large group of the visitors or audience, right? And then do you see any big difference between before and after about especially groups of people like Black and Hispanic, you know, minority groups like coming less or coming more, or do you see the differences or still the same ratio? Because in Florida, it's like a huge like Hispanic population and Black, some the coming from South America. So, and do you see any changes or in these days?
That's a good question. For school tours, I've noticed a big jump in diversity in our students and in our tours. And I think that just stems from we're getting tours from so many different states, so many different school corporations and places. I don't know that it's because local families here from different populations are hearing more about our programming. I think we're just having a wider audience, so that equates to having a more diverse audience.
And we also, our educational department also have the meeting each week. We talk about how to make our, we have the topic of equality, how to make our museum be more inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's also the reason why when we are proposing the new upcoming team program, we will add the social justice and social inclusion as our keywords, because our family programs are very basically focused on the Sarasota local community. So it's a very steady community people. So we want to attract more people from outside, because I do believe in that technology has no boundaries, so we can attract more people from different states to join our team programs online, probably, yeah.
I think so as well. Jenna, I'm seeing, did we answer your question, Ryan? Great.
Yes, thank you, yeah.
Of course, thanks for asking. Jenna, I'm seeing another question in the chat. Will we continue to do virtual programming when in-person programming resumes? And absolutely. So whenever I came to the Ringling in August, my job was to work on virtual tours for just the semester, and I've already decided to stay on with the museum afterwards and continue to do virtual programming and tours. We're working on a couple different partnerships with some community foundations, one of them including a local hospital where we'll be doing virtual tours to their patients in their geriatric wing and also in a couple other departments. So they definitely want to continue to grow programming, and these are all things that they're investing in, investing time and investing money that they're going to continue doing even whenever we go back to in-person. I think that this everyone's gotten like a little bit of a taste for the reach that we can have and the impact we can have on our community and broader, and they just can't get enough of it. And we just want to keep that ball rolling now that we have this momentum that we were kind of forced into because of the pandemic, but we're really just trying to make the most of it. So that's a great question. I'm reading more in the chat. I do think it will be sustainable and manageable because we're having more interns and more people work on these projects. I think eventually when we go back to on-site programming, it'll be a little difficult for those 1 or 2 people departments like adult programming or family programming if they don't have the help that they need. Once their on-site programming resumes, it'll be a little bit more difficult to do the virtual programming, but I think that they're just going to keep trying to get more and more help on that. We have so many students that are interested in working on this, including myself, and I think that that'll help a lot with sustainability and just getting some more hands on deck.
Yes, and also in this semester, Ringling trying to add some audio transcript to the audio guide. So in case kids that and also visitors with disabilities can also have the access to our virtual guide.
I'm also seeing Gia in the chat asking about our social justice in the museum curriculum. So the museum just finalized their equity statement, and that will be rolled out with like every department in the museum. I think it'll look different for every department. I think in education, I can really only speak for myself and my department. I don't know other people's processes. and intentions, but we've always tried to show works by various artists and make sure that, for me, I'm always trying to make sure that every single student of mine sees themselves reflected in our tours and in our programming. I think that's so important for kids growing up to see themselves in art and in leadership positions and things like that, and just be talked about in a museum setting, because that's something that hasn't been done throughout history. And so I can provide some lessons. I'm thinking I can provide some of our lesson plans and some of our modules that we have done on that Dropbox or the thing that we were uploading to. If anyone is interested in seeing what we're doing, I'd love to share and hear feedback. If you think we're doing something well or not, I'd like to hear it either way so we can better our programming for our students.
Brooke,
And I'm
I
not
know
sure.
for the sake
Thank
of time, and also just for the sake of the recording, if you could read the questions. So it's
Absolutely, I'm sorry.
no worries. And as for providing examples, that's great if you could share material, but I would love to even hear like what is a lesson that you all do, an example of it.
Sure. Yeah, I can give an example of one of the lessons for the pre-recorded modules that we're doing right now, and I'll try and keep it quick. So right now, the one I'm working on is Women in the Arts, which I feel like a lot of museums are doing right now, which is great. But I hope that doing a module on women in the arts in the Ringling collection will show what we have to offer, but also it will show our curators and the people who work with collecting in the museum what we don't have and what is missing in the collection, because it really is a team effort. And sometimes people don't realize populations that are being left out until it's blatantly in your face saying, okay, we have this many white artists and this many artists of color, and just the difference in that. So I'm trying to do a module on that right now. I'm working with Katie and school tours on that. And that will include gallery tours of talks at artists and artworks that are on display right now, collections tours, activities, and then links to the family programs department in like different programs that they've already done with that. And I can share, I'm not done with that, but I don't see any problem sharing that in our cloud as well. Also, I'm seeing a message, Xiaonon answered this a little bit, but can you speak on how you're making virtual programs accessible for children with disabilities? In my department with the pre-recorded modules, again, we're working with our marketing and design department a lot to just make sure things are easy to read, that all of our images have alt text, and just like those accessibility measures that we can do, everything has, if there's a visual aspect, we need to have an audio or something that goes along with it so that people with different abilities are able to participate in the activities as well. Do we have any other questions or comments or anything? These have been wonderful questions so far, so thank you.
I was trying to type something, but actually in the chat, so maybe it's easier to like to speak to you. So
Of course.
looks like you are working a lot with the art video. So can you share just one example how your art video is different from DIY? There are so many videos like the art instruction on the on YouTube, right? So
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
any one example would be great. So
Sure. So with the portraits, that was the first one that comes to mind that I mentioned in the presentation. It was one of our homeschool groups. So that was one that we did a collections tour. We looked at 5 or 6 examples of portraits in the museum and really unpacked each image and looked at the context and the artist and what the artist was doing and what was going on in the world when this was made. Looking at what can we learn about this person in the portrait from this, and just teaching them to like those deeper looking skills and exercises to do whenever they're at a museum. And the first example that we give them, me and my co-presenter would really just have that dialogue back and forth between ourselves. And then the rest of the tour, we open it up to the students for them to really like work on those skills and learn and just kind of have a place to like work through those. And then after that, that's when we would go in and make our own. And I found that doing art making at the end, the students are so much more informed and thorough and intentional with the art that they're making, as opposed to starting at the beginning and saying, okay, let's draw a picture of ourselves today. And they just start to doodle. But at the end, I let the students unmute themselves and talk through their process with me. And someone would say things like, well, I'm going to have my dog in my picture because that's my best friend. And I want people to know who my best friend is when they look at this picture of me. I'm going to put this background and this setting in my portrait because I want people to know where I'm at in the world and what year it is, or maybe it was a memory from 2 years ago or something like that. And so I think the difference with the tour art making videos versus like DIY is just giving those like intentional looking choices, skills to the students. And it really does make a difference in my opinion.
Thank you. That's a great example. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the presenters. A wonderful presentation. All of their contact information is in the welcome packet as well as in the drive. So thank you all. If you want to stick around for the next session, I will move everyone into the waiting room. Otherwise, have a great afternoon.
Thank you so